Green Lantern War Journal issue 4. Phillip Kennedy Johnson writing with Montos on the art. So last issue, John Stewart got infected by the Radiant Dead.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what they were called? I always question if I'm getting it right.
And it's the Revenant Queen, the Radiant Dead.
Revenant Queen, Radiant Dead.
Yes.
So this issue starts off actually on the planet Durla, because this relates to the Green Lantern. Not the one from the other universe. This is the one that, Varen, yeah. The one who came down, trash-talked John Stewart a bit, and then got infected in like issue 2. Or the end of issue 1, whenever that happened. So this basically is like this Durlan asshole who's a politician who's making this deal with this woman and saying he's thankful to give a home to all these refugees from this other planet. But it's just all publicity, and he's a complete monster when he starts talking to his peers, like behind their backs, and then even drops the baby he was holding for a photo shoot. So they set up that he's this evil character, and they're basically there to tell him, hey, that Varen asshole, he's on Earth behind the blockade where he's not meant to be, and he's like, shit, like that's like one of our biggest, we control part of our entire empire because he's the nephew of this other like important dude, right?
It definitely reeks like, now that the United Planets are in charge of the Green Lantern Corps, the rings aren't necessarily going to, the ones that what is it? You have the power. Is it you have great willpower? I forget the full thing.
Well,
it's not going to them.
Forget the specifics. Like, the people in charge now are picking who the rings are going to. It's going to people via nepotism or via politicking, that kind of things. That's clearly the implication here. Is that this by all accounts, Varen sounds like he's a trust fund kid who's been handed a Green Lantern ring. And given this important position because of who his dad is.
Checks out what happened to him, right? Like,
oh yeah. For sure. So that sets up this. It sets up that, so we've got this other player now from the planet Durla who's going to get involved and possibly come and deal with it. And this is actually some of the best art here. The final panel of him before it goes to the other part of the story is him just like with his hand up to his chin, and he's making kind of like a inquisitive face. He's like, if he's alive, we'll have earned his father's gratitude. If he's not, we find someone to blame. So they're coming to find Varen, and that's another problem been introduced into the mix. I actually quite like this. I think it's interesting because it's hinting at the politics and like the United Planets are controlling the Green Lantern Corps right now. The idea that they're corrupting it and like doing shady things with it based on their own wants and needs is very interesting. And seems like a political topic that Johnson would probably want to sink his teeth into. So that makes a lot of sense.
Well, and it also feels like there's some more worldy stuff going on there too. Like with the type, like we had the one guy that left Warworld. I forget the character's name. He was the one that was the parent figure to the twins before Clark.
The old Kryptonian.
Yeah. And him going back to the United Planets and, puppeteering certain things. That's there. So what do you know about the Durlan race, Pete?
I feel put on the spot here. Not that much.
Yeah. So they're in the future, in the Legion, that is Chameleon Boy's species. And RJ Brand, who's the
Of course I don't know this. What were you expecting from me? Oh, Chameleon Boy from the Legion.
I'm just saying, they showed up on Young Justice. I know you've seen Young Justice, so I thought maybe it would ring a bell.
True. It's been a while. I've forgotten most of what I saw in that now, though. But yes, fair enough.
These are because I was like, Durlans, shouldn't these guys be, shapeshifters? Like, that would be... But apparently these are the orange skin Durlan subgroup. And they're their own, like, they were bottled by Brainiac. And so they're almost kind of like the Kandorians of Krypton to the Durlan's shape change. So I'm not too sure if they can shape change, and maybe that's why, they have such a different, almost a different society than the Durlans that we have been familiar with. But yeah, I thought that was very interesting to make them Durlans, and I'm sure that Johnson has a reason for it. but seeing their kind of grimy society as it is, at least this one guy, I thought was a nice story plot.
Yeah, and then we go to basically inside John's head. They're doing like a, they're in his head trying to like fight off the Radiant Dead infection. So in this case, like he's literally making constructs and trying to fight it off inside his brain. And some of this art here is pretty good. This idea that he's making a whole army of green constructs to try and fight this thing inside his head. But the idea being that it's not working very well, and the Green Lantern here is like Shepard, his name is. He is like, this is the one that's from the other Earth, just in case anyone's forgotten all this stuff. But he is like, this is a lost cause. You're going to turn. We have to just like take care of you, because if John Stewart turns, the entire universe is doomed. And he's like, no, we can still fight this. And this is where the subject of the Lantern rings comes up, because when a lantern's turned, the ring also dies, right? The ring is taken from the grid. It's not part of the system anymore. It's not connected to the battery. It won't find a new host. So, which makes it almost kind of a darker thing even that this is happening, because it stops the chain of the ring going to find someone. But John's like, wait, have you got one of the rings of those lanterns that the Radiant Dead were wearing? And he's like, yeah, I've got one here. I was going to burn it. He's like, no, we can do something with that. So they go back to Steelworks, and he's talking to John Henry about, okay, can we, connect this to an energy source? Particularly here, they're talking about using the Genesis fragment to power it. And they're like, okay, can we do something with this? And John Stewart starts turning, right? The Radiant Dead spreading all up his side and his face and all that. So he's starting to turn. Shepard's ready to just kill him because like this is too dangerous. And this is where the Genesis energy hits the ring. It basically, John Stewart goes to grab it and touch it as he's turning into a zombie. And we go back inside his main place, or the main place of the ring, or the Radiant Dead main place, wherever this abstract place is. And he's wearing the ring. And basically, by connecting to the ring, like he's connected to the Radiant Dead, because effectively what he's seeing is that the shared network of the Radiant Dead inside this place. And we get a lot of nice art here as it's showing that. But when he comes back, he fights the whatever monster it is that's in here. This is the... It's not the Queen, but it's like the... It's like the... it is
Varen.
It's Varen,
Varen finds him, and he's like all tentacly, so it's not like, the Varen that we've seen. He's a little bit off.
Because it's not literally him. It's not the physical him. It's, this is inside the network, if you will. So John Stewart sort of stands off against him, and when he comes back out into the real world, the green smoke clears, and for the first time in this series, he's wearing his Green Lantern outfit, with a few updates. It's got a couple of little design touches on it. There's like a sort of black line going through it, but it's, it's the John Stewart look, and it's like, oh shit, he's got a ring again, and it's this ring that he's sort of rehabilitated from the Radiant Dead. So it ends in kind of this triumphant moment, this great full page spread of him holding his hand up and the green lightning coming from him. So yeah, I mean, this is the issue of how he kind of becomes a Green Lantern again, almost. Obviously, he did have Lantern powers before without a ring, but this is him. It's kind of a neat idea that he takes a ring that was written off as a lost cause, and he's like, no, it's not a lost cause. I can fix this. I can rehabilitate it, and that's what he's done.
We have the technology. We can rebuild him. To borrow from $6 Million Man. What I do like here is
show your age there with that reference a bit, Matt.
Yeah. That's fun. So I like the dynamic between Steel and him, because when they're looking over the Genesis fragment and Steel's just like, this thing, it's like technology, but the technology is so like advanced that it taps into your emotional state and philosophical beliefs and the circuitry. So, it's almost like it's magic. And so John's like, so you think we can, fix it? And and just the look that John Henry gives him is like, oh no, we're going to do it. I thought that was a nice, moment of levity, and in some of the story that's gotten pretty dark. And then just the idea that John's able without the ring to harness green energy to like create a doppelganger of his sister, right? For his mom. Now that he has his ring, like we're approaching like Hal Jordan levels of willpower, right? And I think that's really cool for Jon Stewart as the whole, like giving him the name of like the master builder and that type of stuff, because you get that from Shepard, you know, just referring to him as his names in the other place, like it gives Jon this bigger significance. And I like that Johnson's doing that, because it's similar to kind of what he did with Superman in Warworld, right? He started like he's this familiar concept of a character that we know and love, and he's just building on it and bringing out these aspects that were already there. It's just what Johnson's choosing to spotlight, and I think that's really cool.
Yeah, it's I think the idea that the idea that this ring even has green energy now is probably coming more from Jon than it is like, you know, he's getting power from the Genesis stuff, but I feel like the fact that it's the green willpower is probably coming from him, because he already had that in him. He naturally was outputting that. But the big thing here at the end, though, is that because this ring was connected to the Radiant Dead, there's still a connection to it. So he's like, okay, let's go and find them. Like, I can track them now because we're connected to them. So maybe there'll be consequences to that down the line. We'll see. But I could see some potential there. I think it's interesting, though, because it feels like, okay, well, we've solved this issue of Jon turning, and the fact that he was able to overcome it maybe then suggests, can we teach other Lanterns to overcome it? Is that something we can do? Because that's the thing, that the Radiant Dead specifically targets Green Lanterns. It specifically targets... now, that's not to say that it can't target other Lanterns as well, but certainly what we know so far is that it targets Green Lanterns. Maybe there's an interesting... Maybe there's an interesting pivot at some point where it does target a different color, and maybe there's different effects because it is a red lantern or a yellow or a whatever. So
or maybe whatever causes the Radiant Dead only works when it's based off of willpower, right? So that's why they go after Green Lanterns, or maybe it's personal to the Queen, right? There's a reason she's only going after Green Lanterns. You know, there's all play, but I also like when he's in that mind space of the Radiant Dead, and he's talking to Varen. And he's like, you were never cut out for this. You're a killer, maybe, but you're not a fighter. And you were never a Green Lantern. I thought that was such a good moment. Because especially knowing, finding out from the early part, like, he was a nepotism hire, right? Like, he was never cut out to be a Green Lantern. So it's almost like they've created a perfect storm for the Radiant Dead to take over the Corps. Because there's these so many, I mean, Varen can't be the only one that's like that, right?
Yeah, you'd assume not, yeah.
You know, so... it's almost like you have these people that aren't ready for the responsibility of being a Green Lantern, and it's created a perfect storm now that, you know, that Jon Stewart and Lantern Shepard and his little crew he's assembled here has to push back against. And I just like this as a kind of a reset for the Green Lantern mythos too, because if the power's coming directly from Jon or from Hal, like we're reading in Green Lantern, that's kind of Torchbearer Kyle Rayner type of stuff too.
Well, actually, right? I was thinking about it. Like, what if the reason why... because both Hal and Jon, to some extent, were having powers without having proper rings. Like, I know Hal kind of made his own ring. Jon just flat out didn't have a ring. I mean, what if the idea is... and I don't know if they're going this way, but what if the idea is that now the United Planets are in charge and they're just handing out rings to whoever they choose... what if the idea here is that the battery itself is still connecting to the people who are actually, like, supposed to have the rings, because they're actually connected because they're the right people for the job. And that's why some of our classic Lanterns are still finding they have connections to the power, even if they technically shouldn't have because they don't have the rings. It makes me wonder if we do eventually bring in some of the others and see if they still have connections to the green willpower energy. You know? I can see them doing something with that.
Well, because that makes sense, because, again, that's what I was getting with the Kyle Rayner Torchbearer stuff, right? When, like, he was the only Green Lantern and all the, you know, all the green willpower energy lied within him, you know, and he had to go help restart the Corps. That was that first miniseries, right? It was Recharge. You know, it was kind of similar to the vibe of Jon Stewart here. So I just like also how it's redefining Green Lantern, but also playing off of not things that we've seen before, but stuff that's a little bit familiar. And it's just it's a real fun read too. The art here, just the coloring with the purple and the green, like they complement each other so well. Like this page with when John's in that hive mind of the Radiant Dead, and he has like the only green energy there, and he just sticks out. It looks really good. And then the green energy here too at the last 2 pages that culminates with the let's go hunting. Just it's so bright and vivid, and it makes it feel like it's coming off the page, like it's actual energy. So I give this artistic team credit too.
Yeah, well, they've made this choice to have it be mostly white light with a green outline. This idea it's so bright in the middle that the color stops being even perceptible. That makes it feel really bright. I love the art in the opening scene. Actually, I think all the stuff with the politician on the planet, I feel like all of that stuff where the expressions are so good, and obviously it's a very alien face, but obviously the humanoid features of it really sing and tell the story of how much of a seedy little bastard he is. Makes you want to see him get comeuppance quite quickly. So, yeah, no, very good. What are you rating War Journal issue 4?
I'm gonna give it an 8.5.
Yeah, I think I'm 8.5 on this as well. It's very good.